Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Pramanik. I teach Comparative Indian Language and Literature at the University of Calcutta. Today we will discuss a module from Comparative Literature, Drama in India. The title of the module is Nil Darpan or the Indigo Planting Mirror. The content of this module is written by Sayantan Mondol, University of Hyderabad. In 1859, from a press named Bangla Jontro of Dhaka, a play was printed under the supervision of Ramchandra Bhumik. The name of the playwright was not mentioned in the printed text, written in colloquial forms of Bangla on the lamentable condition of Bengal's village society under the gruesome atrocities of the British indigo planters. The first English translation of the play appeared in 1861. Who wrote this play in Bangla? Who was the native translator of the English? Nil Darpan? The silence over the authorship of Nil Darpan, its early reception, performance, is indicative of the colonial administrators' fear, even among the socially secured and well-placed erudite circle of native Bengali printers and authors of mid-19th century Bengal. And that is why, though written and printed first in 1859, the literary circuit involved in the making of Nil Darpan did not even make their limited public exposure unless summoned by the Calcutta Supreme Court in 1861. Regarded as a literary testimony of the famine striking agricultural community of the mid-19th century Bengal, the Nil Darpan is actually placed at a pivotal point of mid-19th century socio-political polemics. How should be the language of the modern Bangla literature? What would be the literary concerns? Caught in between such contemporary tensions, Nil Darpan or the Indigo Planting Mirror served as an exemplary case whose literary merit was often defended and judged from an author's literary political accountability to the reader's society as well as the state. The introduction to the English translation of the text judged Nil Darpan to be a play without any marvelous or very tragic scenes, yet in simple homely language gives the annals of the poor. The Supreme Court judge, Sir Mordaunt Wells, who presided over the Nil Darpan trial, described the work as a foul and disgusting libel. And Reverend James Long, in his statement, though did not use the word obscene, but described the play to be containing coercive passages and statements which were expunged or softened in the English translation. On the other hand, the popular acceptance of this play in the nationalist atmosphere of 1870s Calcutta also inaugurated the journey of the first commercially viable public Bangla theatre. But that was 1872, December 7, when Nil Darpan was performed by the National Theatre. 11 years after its first performance in 1861 in Dhaka by the East Bengal stage, a lot had happened in between. The printer and the publisher of the English translation of the play were tried, convicted, penalized. The native English translator lost his job. An Indigo Commission was formed, headed by Walter Scott Seton Kerr, to look into the situation. The findings and recommendations of the committee provided one of pioneering moments of nationalist consolidation. By the beginning of 1870s, in Nil Darpan, while at one hand the native elite literati of the city of Calcutta, the Landholders Society, or the British Indian Society, the journalists, the barristers found a political literary dictum in Bangla plays where their political, social responsibilities and ambitions can be righteously exercised. On the other hand, the colonial state found vernacular literature's content, its market rules as a serious matter of administrative control and surveillance. The expression of such discoveries were loud in the Codification of Registration Act of 1867, in the Obscenity Act of 1856, and in the Dramatic Performance Act of 1876. However, the significance of the text of Nil Darpan needs also to be understood from the perspective of the people whose language, land, and life the play intended to safeguard. Contemporary literary taste had long begun vanishing rustic colloquial language as impurities from the modern Bangla, tied to a system where one's language was silenced. Platforms of grievance redressals were prejudiced. These people had hardly any other option but to find their voice in the Nil Darpan, in the civilized political dictum, and nostalgia for the pride of the caste, of the family, and the village. Nil Darpan and its fate evolved in this power polemics, in memories, in literary histories. It was recognized as a Bangla play on indigo exploits of the Sahab communities, as a play whose author knows to dare newspaper editors but not offend the colonial English race. In times when printed books sold in market became synonymous to civilization, when corollary discourses on obscenity spread its roots from the Contagious Disease Act through anti-prostitution progressive reform stances deep into the publication, composition, and sale of Bangla literature. Nil Darpan emerged as one of the most significant texts of contemporary socio-political and literary concerns. From the beginning of the 19th century, a transition was set in motion in the literary domain of Bengal with the consolidation of colonial knowledge production efforts from William Jones' Asiatic research through Fort William College. Bangla literature and literary performances underwent a process of discovery, of recognition. Printed books, newspapers, pamphlets, which started making its novel presence felt very strongly by 1830s in the city space of Calcutta, escalated the literary transition in process. It was a transition which had shaken the pre-print readers' categories of learned readers who could read, write, had access to manuscript, and common mass who partake literature in performance or in collective recitations. The modern commodity of printed book alienated Bangla literature from its performative flexibilities and brought it within the bounds of reproducible exactness to cater in the market for all to consume. This transition, which went on to be recognized as the modernization of vernacular Bangla literature, was also guided by the discourse around the content of the reproducible and exact literary text. Consequently, the uncertainty of identifying the manuscript writer and its many versions was reduced by the printed details of the book, which by law was required to furnish the name of the author, the publisher, and the address of the printer. The encounter between pre-print Bangla literary tradition and colonial civilizing mission and administration not only streamlined the modern form of Bangla literature through acts regarding copyright and registration of publication. Its content, the use of language, was often judged obscene and unfit for the consumption of new domestic readers. In such atmosphere, Bangla literature and its growth into a marketable and civilized form was supervised by new literary association and their publishing efforts. The Vernacular Literary Society, also known as Bongo Bhasha Anubadok Society, a society for Bengali translation, established in 1851, under the leadership of Rajendralal Mitra, Madhusudan Mukhopadhyay, Kaliprashanna Singh, Parichand Mitra, was one among such new literary associations which jealously participated in the contemporary discourses and making of useful and healthy domestic literature in Bangla, free from the charges of obscenity and inappropriate use of language. Published in 1859, Nil Darpan was a literary text that emerged from Bengali Progressive Literary Circle, formed of colonial clerks, missionaries, and jamindars. Dinabandhu Mitra, the playwright, born in 1829, was taught in Reverend James Long's Free School and later in the Hindu College. He was a postal department employee who had served in Patna, Nadia, and Dhaka of contemporary Bengal province. As a member of the educated literati of Bengal, Dinabandhu Mitra and his play Nil Darpan are intricate part of the mid-19th century literary concerns. The literary enterprise in Bengal from 1850s had attempted to harbor a niche of readers to sustain the market of printed books, new domains of readers such as domestic readers, women were explored. A stream of healthy, useful domestic literature emerged in competition with the cheaply available booklets of the popular market. However, as far as the choice of genre and content were concerned, an uninterrupted exchange of ideas between the cheap and erudite Bangla literature marked the literary characteristics of the period. Naksha, Darpan, and similar styles of social criticism of satirical pieces in Bangla was the norm of the day. Alaler Ghorer Dulal, the spoiled brat of the rich in 1858, Eke Ki Bole Shobhota, or Is This Civilization in 1860, Hutum Pachan Naksha, sketches by the Wise Owl in 1861, and Apunar Mukh Aponi Dekho, See Your Own Face in 1863, are some of the contemporary satirical works which aimed at the hypocrisy of the city-bred, educated Bengalis. On the other hand, this text, besides holding a mirror in front of the contemporary society, also attempted to forge a literary Bangla language that would take their efforts to all the readers. Language in use became a crucial center of debate and experiments. Nil Darpan, coming out of such literary atmosphere, contributed to both these ongoing literary movements. The play manifested a 19th century Bangla author's anxieties, his accountability to his fellow writers, and contemporary literary debates, his apprehensions and fears of punishment at the hands of the colonial state. While the fiction allowed the text to be located in imaginary Bengal villages of Shamnagar, Sherpur, Shantighata, and avoid direct confrontation with the colonial administration, the authorial anxiety went further ahead. The author's preface to the text presented the indigo planters as a few stray examples which is responsible for the ill repute of the whole English race, which otherwise had established themselves in Bengal and the world as the most generous dispenser of law and order and civilization. The separate categories of good sahibs and bad sahibs, or more precisely presenting the indigo planters as the threat to English honor and public peace, was a strong literary signature of the author's political conviction. Similarly, the colloquial dialogues of the play, which retained the social fiber of the local, the strict division of language code among the characters, manifesting each character's social position, helped the author to construct a nostalgia for village Bengal, which prospered despite their internal differences of language, social status, living condition, under the good, caring, and pious Jomindars and their able administration. The villages of Bengal was a happy abode which the indigo planters ruined. The anger of the raped village women, the frustration of the farmers who were forced to receive advance money and cultivated cash crop like indigo instead of rice, all were subsumed in the Jamindar's nostalgia for the past days of peace, of social sanctities, and made Nil Darpan the testament of the collective public opinion. How do we study Nil Darpan? Or for that matter, any literary text which had such checkered history of origin? How do we read a literary text that had been written more than a century ago and in its afterlife had been variously recognized and rated? It would be anachronic to judge the play for merits and demerits from our current perspective of literature, to appreciate the play and the role played by vernacular literature and its translation during the making of modern literature. We need to take into account all the coordinates, the Bangla text of the play, the modern practitioners of Bangla literature, modern literary discourse, the Supreme Court case, etc. The Indigo Commission report, the continuing trend of labor migration from the villages to the city, the unending series of famines, the land equation, taxation, all these aspects are necessary to understand, appreciate a play like Nil Darpan. A comparative historiographic approach therefore can help us go beyond the structure of the play and its celebration, a social documentary. It can lead us closer to the intricate process of modern making of literature where dialects were identified, standards were established. Nil Darpan, under such critical lenses, can emerge as a literary witness of many chapters of Indian modern literature and provide us with a register to trace how modern literary sensibilities are inextricably interlinked with the political idea of being, to understand the multi-layered difficulties of addressing certain concerns in printed literary form which were censored and disciplined. The characterization of the play in such readings can provide us with many questions, such as that of the acceptable and glorified disparity between the worlds of men and women, the peaceful submission of the whole society to strict caste norms of interactions. Nil Darpan as a text still awaits to be read today from these points of view, and through such reading can perhaps the world of Podimairani or sweet maker, Sadhu Charan, Khetromani could only become more vocal and real and offer its readers more secrets which were kept under the case files and petitions for ages. So now let us summarize our whole discussion. In this discussion, we came to know about one of the most significant texts of early modern Indian literature, which is Nil Darpan by Dinabandhu Mitra, originally written in Bangla and immediately was translated into English. This instance of immediate translation of a text of mid-19th century proves the significance, the political, the social and the cultural significance of the text. And through this translation, this text actually crossed the border, and this crossing border was actually a political act. Nil Darpan is not only a powerful dramatic text or dramatic literature, but it was a strong resistance against the state, against the British government, to save the life of the indigo cultivator, indigo farmer, to claim the right of the indigo cultivator or indigo farmer. In that sense, this text is a social documentary, a historical documentary, and a documentary of political resistance of a common man on behalf of the common people of India. So in that sense, this text is very much significant. In this module, we have tried to historicize the text through the close reading of the text. We have tried to bring the picture of contemporary Bangla literary society, Bangla literary culture, development of Bangla language, Bangla educated elite society, and the British government. All these pictures have appeared in this discussion as the context from which Nil Darpan actually emerged. So, this text also has a very significance in our literary history to trace the origin and development of literary Bangla language in the time of so-called modernity or in the time of so-called Renaissance in Bengal. This text also has enough significance or enough role to play in the historiography of Bengali literature or early Indian literature. So from this point of view also, this text has been analyzed and we have presented it in this module. Besides this text, this discussion actually invites a different, a new, a unique interpretation of the text. So this discussion, this module actually unfolds the possibility of further reading, further criticism and further analysis of the text or such kind of text. In that sense, this module actually offer a discursive model for reading such kind of text which documented the social, historical and political realities of the common masses of 19th century India, especially in Bengal. Thank you.